Hello everyone and welcome to my first video on this channel. Who knows, the making of this may turn into a video series I can rely on, and if not, oh well. But as of today, I'm soon graduating high school, so for people who are doing the same or people too lazy to read the book themselves, I'm doing a book report on The Call of the Wild by Jack London. So let's get started, alright? Chapter 1, which is titled Into the Primitive. It's a very fitting title as we can see Buck's transition from living with Judge Miller to being sold and shipped up to the Alaska-Canada border. I like to call it Canada. Remember, Alaska is not owned by the U.S. at the point in time this book was written in 1903. He meets other dogs, Spitz and Dave, also shipped from the U.S. to Alaska, Canada, and that is the plot line of Chapter 1 in a nutshell, really. It's an introduction. All it does is set the characters, the beginning plot, and the conflict into action. Alright, so here's some analysis. Into the Primitive, the name of this chapter, and I love that name so much. It sounds like an 80s underground punk metal band, or another 60s hippie rock band, you know, it's how you think of it. Anyway, it's titled this because of Buck's departure from the world of civilization, like I said, to his feeling of the sun. What? I don't even know what I wrote there. He understands everything around him into the snowy north, which Buck had never seen snow before. Oh, I understand why I wrote that. Living in California. The first chapter also sets most of the literary elements. Point of view obviously is first person. There are some third person narratives later, but no one gives a crap about those guys. The conflict I felt at this point is man versus man. Maybe it's man versus world. More like should be dog versus man. Alright, now we move on to chapter 2. Chapter 2 is titled The Law of Club and Fang. I should have mentioned something earlier. Buck's new owner is a French-Canadian named Francois. Alright, now we're moving on. Buck meets a female companion dog named Curly. She dies because, of course, things can't get worse for Buck, and then they do. Also, Buck now hates Spitz because Spitz is laughing at her death and is also a total bubble. Francois and Peral are male carriers, and then this time they use dogs, so they currently have 9 dogs, 10 if you count Curly, but is now dead. The reason this chapter is titled that is because back to an ongoing theme of civilization versus primitive, and the primitive, which Buck has not experienced much of. Buck knows when Curly dies, it's survival of the fittest. Essentially, in civilization there are laws to protect, but in the primitive there are only the laws of nature, which is the polar opposite of friendliness and violence. It's really a nice day outside, guys. You want to just go outside? The Dominant Primordial Beast, Chapter 3. Does anybody know what primordial means? Seriously, I looked it up multiple times. Still don't know what it means.
It's a synonym for prehistoric. It means from the beginning.
Thanks, Mr. Voice. We really help sometimes. Hey, look, everyone. We're on Semi-Nature. It's my back patio. Yeah, this is cool. Alright, we really need to hurry up. Chapter 3 expresses dangers in the primitive world that are unknown to Buck. He still focuses on his petty squabbles with Spitz. Why not work together to survive the harsh ice and snow that both of these dogs don't know well? I don't know. That's all I've got for Chapter 3, because Chapter 3 sucks. Chapter 4, titled Who Has Won the Mastership, respectfully is about Buck's rise to the leader of the pack, so to say. He best Spitz in a fight, so I guess it really isn't petty anymore. But he has now become the unanimous team leader. But if you look back upon the story, Buck was originally a pet, alright? So it's kind of weird that he can be a natural leader, but at the same time was also the pet of a judge. Mr. Voice, hit those wind chimes! There you go, Mr. Voice, you did good. Hey, look at the time. It's time for a small verse about Chapter 5. And this is the point where I normally give my acoustic guitar out, but screw that. Chapter 5, The Toil of Trace and Toil. You can already notice the alliteration of the chapter title. The next 30 days, they arrive back at Skogate to carry Mercedes, who's a royal bitch, with her husband Charles and his house sister. And then Buck gets angry and overfed and underfed, and the assholes then feed them horsehide instead of meat. Like, seriously, you're all lunatics. But because the sled is heavy, because of greed, they fall into the dark water. Yeah. Alright, that got a little out of hand. Chapter 6, For the Love of a Man, and ironically titled, due to the fact that the assholes Charles, Hal, and Mercedes in the last chapter is about Buck getting his strength back. Also, from now on, I'm referring to Charles, Hal, and Mercedes as the assholes from Chapter 5, because I'm not wrong. Anyway, the assholes from Chapter 5 gave Buck and the other dogs horsehide instead of meat, so of course, he's getting his strength back. Also, some things to add on to Chapter 5. This is a turning point in the story for Buck, due to his realization that civilization, for example, the assholes in Chapter 5, can be worse than the primitive wildlife throughout Chapters 2 through 4. Also, John Thornton is his only friend other than the judge. It's why the chapter's called that. John treats his dogs like children, with love and compassion, but with some punishment as well. Buck, due to the love of Thornton, pulls a sled with 1,000 pounds of flour on it, breaking the ice, like a boss. I bet Arnold Strongman, who deadlifted 1,155 pounds, would be pretty proud of this dog.
Hey, let's go shoot some hoops.
Mr. Voice, seriously, I'm not done my book report yet.
Oh, come on, you can do it while you finish it.
I'm here
No,
by
I'm
myself. I
finishing
came
off
down here
first.
because Mr. Voice over there promised me $5. Yes, I'm that broke. I don't have a job. Chapter 7, also the final chapter named The Sounding of the Call, is appropriately named due to Buck's calling, as I'd put it. He's figured out who to live with. He's figured out what he should do. He's part sled dog and part hunter. Hold on. That was terrible. Part hunter. He hunts for salmon. He also lives with Thornton, who paid off all his debts from the money he earned from the bet. Buck then finds a wolf, 1/3 of Buck's size, and they circle and then sniff noses to become friends. It seems as though everything is going to be okay, but like a lot of novels written in the late 1800s and early 1900s, something tragic. God, I hate you. Something tragic is about to happen. Wow, that was terrible. Just like this next event that's about to happen in the book. He approaches the camp where Thornton is, and Buck sees some Indians dancing upon his lodge. Thornton is dead, as you guys may know, and Buck kills a bunch of Indians, so it's a pretty good chapter. Buck, with nowhere else to go, rejoins the pack, and every year goes to his master's grave on the stream before rejoining the pack. Alright, Mr. Voice, give me the freaking basketball. One shot, bro. That's all you need. This book is good. It's got a little literary devices, which I did not cover very well, but I don't want to ramble on too long. I did like this book, however, because I relate Buck to me. No, I'm not a dog, but I love nature, but I've not always loved it. It had to grow on me. It's like Buck. He loves nature, but can't seem to find a way out of civilization. That's why Buck is a fighter. He stands for what he believes in, and I approve of that. If you need something to read, this is a good choice of book. Alright everyone, I just want to ask if you liked the video, please. Could you please give it a like and leave a comment if you want me to do more stuff like this in the future. Bye-bye for now.
Fuck it, you get it.